Oh, you unmute your. Yeah.
Someone who wasn't me pressed the mute button on
Yes.
this.
Thank you, Guido, for updating the mute count. We're at 352 times this year. Not this stream. This year. I know it could be this.
It's
stream.
true. It's true. So, hello everyone, and welcome to Hour 4 of CosmoQuest Hangout-a-thon 2025. We are spending this weekend working to grow our community on Patreon as we grow our funding to bring you bottomless science content. And still no audio.
I can hear you now, so you're at least unmuted on Zoom.
Yeah, it's coming through. Hold on. Always something. Always something.
Hello, hello. Do you see the sound waves in Wirecast?
What?
Okay, hold on.
Wait, no.
Okay, I'm being
Stay
told
there.
now.
You hired me to produce. Let me produce.
I'm sorry.
I can figure it out. I promise. I know how to do this.
I am terrible. Yeah, I'm just going to end it there.
I know, because no one in this group is a control freak, right? You know what that's like. Yeah, okay, there it is. Boop, boop, boop.
La 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 la. Maresy dotes and dozy dotes, a kiddly divey too.
So once upon a time, I was
working. I think. What the hell?
Once upon a time, I was a booth girl for the local band scene. And we had one band that would, every single time like somebody's string broke and they had to like redo it live on stage, one of the members would just switch into doing music.
Just gonna.
So Mika can hear us.
Yeah. Like everything's fine in Zoom. No. It's
Meeting
set
to
up
another?
to work with that. It's I don't know. Let me try.
Would the layer that doesn't have the numbers magically work? Because they both have the audio in them.
Let's give it a go. Couldn't hurt. Test.
Does this have audio? Does this have audio?
Can y'all hear me out there?
I don't see
We
this.
can hear you, but very faint mouse whisper.
Okay, do you hear?
They're picking up Pamela via
Allie's
mic.
Okay. Your Canadian accent has gotten much stronger now that you're living in Canada full time.
Yeah, it turns out I've
getting
crossed
warmer,
the border
getting
into the
louder.
U.S. once since March of 2020. I spend very little time on the other side of the border now.
There is some audio now on Twitch, but it is so low even at maximum volume on my computer settings.
What mic is it using?
It's quieter than whispering right now.
How does that sound? Test. Rhubarb.
Oh, I know it's wrong. What? I'm an idiot.
This is why I don't like her touching my production booth.
This should work.
Okay, can you hear us now? Okay. Those levels are bouncing up and down the way they're supposed to. Cool.
All right.
Thank you for rolling with it, Mika.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to sit here, fixing some knitting mistakes. I figured it's thematic.
Oh, that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I now want to go get my knitting, and I'm not going to.
Yeah, coming in a little hot.
If we do actual knitting, it'd be like tink, tink, tinking, so.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Although I use bamboo needles, so they're a bit quieter.
Okay, I think that might be a little better, Guido, except we were a little blown out.
Okay. All right. We're going to try this again. We're going to try this again. I'm going to hate editing the beginning of these videos. All right.
Stop touching things.
I was trying not to murder people with rockets.
Okay.
Didn't know it would affect the audio for everything. It did. All right. All right. I'm going to ask if you can green screen the background since we have a green screen now.
Okay.
Okay.
Working
So,
on it.
hello, lovely humans, and welcome to hour 4 of CosmoQuest Hangout-a-thon 2025. This is live streaming.
Very live.
It's very, very live.
So live.
And one of the things we love to do here is talk science fiction, talk books, talk movies, talk TV, and sometimes kvetch about the bad science and sometimes celebrate the good science. And joining me this hour is Mika McKinnon, who is a wonderful friend, another person from, we connect Canadians, it's what we do. Another Canadian, and someone who has gotten to talk science with some of the coolest fiction creators out there, including being on the set of Stargate, which is amazing. Welcome, Mika.
Thank you. I've also gotten now to have my name in the big credits in Hollywood. I got to work on Moonfall during the pandemic, which is hilarious and wonderful.
That is also
small
like
screen and big screen now.
what they did with atmospheric science, though, was tremendously bad.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic in every regard. I have an actual direct quote that went from me into the script about having a hollow moon that just fills my heart with glee and joy because it's such geophysics fan service. Like, the point of having science in movies is not always to have beautiful science in movies. Like, sometimes it's nice to have science support the stories and add plausibility and give you, like, we'll build up all of this good credit with you so you'll go along for the ride when we need the craziness to do the plot point jumps. Other times, the idea is to have absolutely ludicrous fun with science and treat it like cotton candy, where you're like, if you did this all the time, you'd feel sick. But to just play with it and have fun with it, it's really joyous. Especially since I specialize in disasters that you really don't want to see in real life.
It's true. It's true.
I need to. I have so many questions for you.
We're at the start of the hour. We can do that.
Yeah. I'm always like fascinated by just the whole process of like science advising on movies and TV shows.
We're going to get to that. We're going to introduce On the Diagonal first.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Love you.
Love you too.
Okay, so also joining us this hour is On the Diagonal, and On the Diagonal comes to us with a biological sciences background, and I can't tell you how many times I've read a book, watched a movie, and been like, this has the science so right, because I only know the physics and astronomy stuff. And then we'll be talking about it in Discord, and On the Diagonals, like, I was completely taken out of this because this thing is so entirely wrong. And it's a science I don't know, showing that these movies, these TV shows, they really need to have scientists from multiple backgrounds sometimes in order to get things right. Thank you for being here on the Diagonal. Would you like to add anything to that introduction?
Well, my background is in botany in specific, though, because of the specific area of botany I was in, which is the evolution of bryophytes, which is sort of a fringe area even within botany, and botany is kind of fringe these days in biology. I had to be kind of a generalist, so I learned a lot about the history of life on Earth, paleontology, genetics, evolutionary mechanisms, And as a result, I pick up on a lot of these things. And the result of being a botanist, I think I shared this meme in our Discord. One of the curses of being a botanist is you watch a TV show and you're immediately taken out of the reality of the show because you can tell where it was shot by the unique plants in the background. So, for instance, even before I heard anything about it, I knew, oh, Xena was shot in New Zealand because those plants are only found in New Zealand.
So I do have a quick follow-up question, which is, you said you specialized in some tiny little critter or fauna, I guess it's not a critter when it's a plant, that I'd never heard of before and can't pronounce. What is it?
Bryophytes are essentially the amphibians of the plant world. They were the first fully terrestrial plants, but they don't have true leaves or roots or vascular tissue or seeds or flowers or any of the things that are normally thought of as being basic plant stuff. And because they're that transition to the land group of plants, that was one of the things I was interested in, specifically looking at which group of bryophytes represent the transition to land for plants and using them to rewrite what we know about what was required for life on land. Just as when you hear about animals arriving on land, that people quote, well, they need to have this scaly skin to keep moisture in, they need to have a hard-shelled egg, and all these other things. Well, those are things they evolved after they were on land to succeed better on land. Those were not the traits to get them onto land in the first place. And the same narrative happens in evolution of plants literature. All the basic biology and botany textbooks say, well, you need vascular tissue, and you need cuticle, and you need this, and you need that in order to survive on land. But none of the early land plants had any of those features.
Okay. And
So-
are there any common examples of them that I might recognize?
The general term for a large group of bryophytes is mosses. But
Okay.
they're more advanced bryophytes than the group that I studied, which are known as Metzgerialian liverworts and Marcantialian liverworts. And
Okay.
unless you took a botany class that went hardcore, you probably never got liverworts.
I never took a
Liverworts
botany
are in the
class,
fish
but I
trade.
definitely did.
I know what
Maybe.
a liverwort plant is because
Maybe.
I've seen them on eBay when searching for cool plants.
There are no underwater liverworts. So if they're in the aquarium underwater, they're not actually liverworts. That's a whole extra story about misidentification of plants that are sold to aquariums.
Okay.
Which I
All
mean,
right.
like, I feel like everything doing lifelike. Misidentification is a very common theme in, like, everything. Just generically. I will say that my small child is slightly better at identifying rocks than,
Yeah.
than most places I have seen.
And it's always weird when like the misidentification gets some like cultural traction.
Oh, yeah.
And then becomes basically impossible to correct.
No,
And
I mean,
we're-
at that point, you're just like, just rename everything to match. It's just going to make your
Yeah,
life
yeah.
easier.
Like the
And-
whole case with like liverworts in aquariums, which are not actually liverworts, but
And common names get reused. So liverwort means both the group of bryophytes I studied, and there is also a flowering plant known as a liverwort, which is completely unrelated. And robin in Europe and the robin in North America are different species that are unrelated. But because the North American ones looked like the European ones, they were called robins when they came over.
yep. It's like when you get into like North American possums and Australian possums. And it's
Like,
very
with
funny to
nothing in common.
yeah, it's very funny to like, because I'm in the U.S. and to like talk to an Australian about possums, and then you realize you're talking about a very different looking creature.
Oh, I got possum yarn at one point out of sheer curiosity.
Oh,
It is
wait,
definitely from an Australian possum. It's
But-
a New Zealand possum because they're an invasive blah blah blah, and they want to get rid of them. Therefore, yarn.
So possums have really short hair. That would be really interesting yarn.
these
Yeah,
are Australian. The
Australian possums also, they're like squirrel
Yeah.
yarn, sort of, which you're just like,
Yeah.
why would you harvest yarn from a squirrel? You would not do
That
that.
I know.
is a
There's
lot
a
of
fur
effort.
trade that's happening in New Zealand of how do we get rid of the possum? How do we monetize
I've been
getting rid of possums?
experimenting. I've been experimenting with and I don't mean to like completely hijack this with textile arts, but
Why not?
I've been experimenting with spinning yarn out of my fluffy white cat's hair.
Australian
Someone's
shepherd
managed.
fur often gets used to make yarn because it's just sort of like, huh, wow, okay, there's a lot of this. There's a lot of this. So, yeah,
What else are you gonna do with it, really?
exactly. Now, I did sidetrack Allie, who had a question related to Mika's work on
Yes,
Moonfall.
yes. Like I've just because I've got like a literature background, like specifically in like book to screen adaptations and like just the art of that. And so what really interests me is kind of that inherent tension between scientific accuracy and entertainment. Like scientific accuracy and what looks like very, appealing to the senses on screen. And just how as a science advisor do you like balance that?
Yeah, and so to me, it's always in service of story. If you don't have a story, then you're making a document. Well, and documentaries also have stories, but if you are prioritizing accuracy over the playfulness and the flexibility, then you're doing nonfiction as opposed to fiction. Um, in fiction, you're allowed to bend the rules. That's You're making something up. And depending on the type of fiction you're telling, either you want a really grounded world during which the fictional aspects are how people are relating to each other and only that element of the story, but the world building itself is very fact based. In fantasy, you get to like throw all the science out and just pick the bits that you want. Almost all fantasy uses some variation of gravity. Um, some of them have very big exceptions to gravity, and you can teleport or fly or like float things or telekinesis or whatever else. Some try and have very structured, consistent rules, in which case you have science fiction, or you can have like a very scientific fantasy, like when magic has very structured rules to it. And it's what world and what type of story are you playing in? And it shouldn't be a conflict of these things. It's they're supporting each other. The role of a science consultant is to effectively play a giant game of yes and. And sometimes it's tweaking things a little bit and going, okay, if we do this slightly differently, you can still tell the same story, but it works better. And that's actually my pet peeve in stories is not you got the science wrong. It's you did something unnecessarily wrong that did not help your story over doing something more accurate. And
What is
like,
the most egregious thing you've seen so far?
there's a lot of things, but the one that just fundamentally annoys me in my heart and soul is actually from the core. So I know I'm going back to the 90s. And the basic concept of the movie is the magnetic field of the Earth is failing, and we need to send people into the center of the Earth in order to restart the rotation of the outer core of the Earth with nuclear bombs. And that's the key point of the story. Okay, we've got a lot of big what's going on here, such as the Earth's magnetic field flips frequently over the history of the Earth, and it has not caused mass extinction events, so we're not going to kill everybody
Mika,
off.
I am so sorry. Hold on, guys.
Yeah.
Our
We've got
sound for some reason went quiet
Okay.
again.
Try it again. Is that
Okay.
better, guys?
Da, da, da. Sound test, sound test. How is my volume?
We're now waiting for the lag.
Sound test.
Da, da, da. Sound testing. Is my sound okay?
Oh, gone deaf is
Click,
the
click.
response. So
Wow.
yes, it came back.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
We're good.
I'm gonna just kindly ask everyone to adjust your volume on your end if it's coming in too loud, because apparently if I try to soften it, it softens it too much.
Okay.
So I don't know
All
what
right.
Wirecast is doing right now. I will figure it out later.
We
So
good to
anyway,
go?
continue
Yeah.
about the core.
All right.
Yeah.
So the core. There's problems with things like the magnetic field failing is not going to lead to mass extinction events. We've had the magnetic field of the Earth flip constantly throughout the history of the Earth.
Yeah.
That sending people down into the outer core when we've never even drilled through the crust is a big ask.
Wait,
And
hold
that
on,
little,
hold on.
Sorry,
We
people
didn't
are
deafen them. Um,
okay, y'all okay. I need y'all to be a little more. I love all of you in Twitch chat. You need to be a little more specific when you're
yeah.
telling me there's sound problems. Because if someone tells me as an audio engineer, oh God, I've gone deaf, that means that I've like blown out their eardrums with high volume.
okay. Are we sound checking
all
again?
right. Testing, testing. Like, guys, I've got it
That was
it's literally as high as it will go on Wirecast. Okay, we're good.
okay. Go ahead, Mika.
Okay. So, and you've also got the problem of nukes restarting the Earth's magnetic field or restarting rotation of huge amounts of iron in the outer core would be a lot to ask from our puny little energy sources. So all of that is like, okay, that's the story. Whatever. I can roll with it. I can roll with the giant geodes in the Earth. I can roll with, like, they've actually got an amazing analogy for the structure of the Earth by, like, burning a peach on a fork that teaches more about Earth structure than most people pick up in their intro geoscience classes. Like, it's phenomenal. My problem with it comes at the very, very end when they say the phrase, we're coming up in a gap in the tectonic plates somewhere near Hawaii. And I have a problem with that because Hawaii is literally the farthest place on the entire planet from a gap in the tectonic plates.
Right.
The
yeah.
Hawaiian Islands are hotspot islands. They're the same type of islands, of volcanoes we get on Mars. Like if you actually took the gravity of Mars versus the gravity of Earth, Olympus Mons is the same thing. It's also a shield volcano. It's also basaltic lava. And it's a fundamentally different type of volcano than the big, sharp, pointy, explosive ones like Mount St. Helens
Yeah.
or Krakatoa that you get on plate boundaries. Not only that, but Hawaii, being as far as you can get from plate boundaries, does not have earthquakes, as opposed to plate boundaries where you have things go back and forth and you get like the San Andreas fault style earthquakes, or they go one underneath the other, subduction zone earthquakes, San Andreas the movie style earthquakes. So you have this whole set of hazards there. If they had said we're coming up at a hot spot somewhere near Hawaii, it would have been accurate, it would have reflected the hazards, it would have reflected the geology, it would have done all of these things with zero change to the plot. So that's the sort of thing that hurts my soul, where I'm just like, but why?
It's always
you could, like, and they had multiple geoscience consultants on that. I've talked to them. Their handwriting is in the movies. They've done lecture notes, all of that stuff. There's no reason for it. It does nothing for the story. It enhances nothing. It's just frustrating.
Wrong. It's just wrong.
Like, yeah, and I think
and in
that
a way that's dangerous. Like,
yeah,
it's in a way that so that sort of thing bugs me.
It's always like interesting to see like what like where each person's like limit is with like kind of like inaccuracies, and in this case like a big inaccuracy. Like what will take you out of a story, right? Like what just completely breaks your suspension of disbelief. And everyone has a different limit. Everyone has different things based on their specific knowledge. Like I can't watch the first Avengers movie without getting really frustrated because Jeremy Renner can't hold a bow correctly, and I am a trained archer. And like the way he's holding the bow, I'm like, you would shave off your elbow skin, like if you did that.
Which again, you're just like, it's not, that isn't that, you don't need that for the story. You just miss the details because you didn't have anyone accurate in it. There's things like x-rays upside down and you're just like, oh.
Now on the diagonal, the reason I invited you on is specifically because I read Hail Mary, by which I mean I listened to the audiobook while planting my raised bed garden. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And then you were just like, no, with the fiction, with the science and the fiction. And I'd love for you to explain what it's like when like suddenly someone decides to gratuitously destroy your field.
Oh, this is tangential to what we were just discussing. Rather than a situation where they've got some totally implausible thing and the story is built around it, like the moon is falling to the earth, or we're going to restart the rotation of the core. That's kind of a fantasy premise. If they're going to lay out at the front that we're going to do this really ridiculous thing, okay, let's roll with it. In a situation like that, the problem comes from them trying to throw in scientific details or over-explain things in ways that makes the implausibility in your face. It's bad. It's bad to mess up with the science, but if it's the premise and you don't over-explain it, it can work. With Project Hail Mary, this is the Andy Weir novel that's going to be turned into, I guess, a movie on Prime fairly soon. The issue there was the structure of the novel was built around a series of solving problems in order, the same way The Martian was done. And in this case, the protagonist of Project Hail Mary is a microbiologist and a hotshot microbiologist. So he's got to know the microbiology really, really well. And yet every single time something comes up in microbiology, in which he is an expert in the field, it's wrong at a middle school level. And it is so painful to have someone talk about what mitosis is and not know what mitosis is. Mitosis is not cell division, which is what most people think it is. Mitosis is the division of the nucleus within a cell. And the organisms being studied in Project Hail Mary don't have a nucleus, so they can't undergo mitosis, even if you wanted to use that word.
So really, that particular... It would have been better if he wasn't a hotshot. Instead, he's like struggling to catch up because he's actually in a different field. He's the mediocre C student who's now they've managed to get promoted over their head and has reached their level of incompetence. And then you go from there. I haven't read or seen this, so I don't know, but would that make it a little less painful to be like, oh, yeah.
This is a situation where I would say you needed to bring in someone who was a trained microbiologist, or at least enough of a generalist like I am to look it over and say, well, how about if you phrased it this way or used this terminology instead? Because except for one instance, the mistakes in the biological science aren't critical to destroying the plot. They simply make the main character sound like a complete idiot.
So hopefully that means that when they do the have a bigger budget to make a movie aspect, that there's enough money to hire a science consultant in there to fix up the script. Because, I mean, book authors would be doing it out of pocket for the most part.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, Mika, is that traditionally published books, the publishers do not provide science advisors for sci-fi writers. That is completely the author's responsibility. And if they don't have
resources for it.
Yeah, if they don't have the money, or if they don't just have they aren't in community with scientists enough to ask someone to help, it's stuff like that happens. Also, editors will come in and be like, oh, you need to over-explain this for the audience. A lot of times in sci-fi books, if you do get those really long, not quite accurate overly technical explanations, that may not have been the author's idea. That was probably an editor being like, the audience needs this, and spoilers, we didn't need it.
So I do want to just mention a resource for anyone out there who is a creator who's like, well, I don't have this background and now I'm intimidated and scared. First of all, there's scientists everywhere. We're very friendly. And we love talking about the things that we nerd out about. But also there's a Science and Entertainment Exchange, is a program of the National Academy of Sciences. And it's a volunteer program where scientists can say, hey, I'm willing to chat with people. And you can, as a content creator, as somebody who writes and creates stories, you can ask to be partnered up with a scientist who can effectively give you a one-on-one tutoring session on what you're trying to figure out. And if you're asking a big, huge thing, like read through my entire book and fix things, then yes, it is polite to offer to pay them for that time and that expertise. But if you just want to get hey, is this vocab off? That's such a small thing that a lot of people will just be like, don't worry, I got you. Just buy a coffee for someone next time you're out. Pay the good deeds forward. So Science
Yeah.
and Entertainment Exchange is a great resource to know about.
And
but
Presto
that-
Pimento, I don't remember the URL, but honestly, you can just reach out to us in the CosmoQuest community, and we can link you. So just in our Discord.
Yep.
And the other thing is, like, I've done science advising for a bunch of different writers because I am a book reader, avid reader. Allie and I both are. It's a problem. The biggest enemy of sleep in my life is books. And
If you need a queer sensitivity reader, I am available.
yeah, and this leads to amazing opportunities for scientists because I went from being one of Alex White's advisors to they were working on the Alien video game that recently came out, and they needed a scientist, and I got reached out to. So I now have my name's in the credit of a video game,
yeah,
and
it's fun.
It's super fun, and one of the things that we are raising funds for as part of our goals, where we're going to be going to companies as well, looking for them to sponsor major projects, is Jason Bott and I wrote a grant to the National Science Foundation that we turned in right before the inauguration last year, and it was all DEI. It did not get funded for obvious reasons. And our goal was we wanted to increase the diversity of scientists that authors were meeting day to day, and create an environment in which, one, we could study how working with authors changes how scientists view their science, and how working with scientists change how authors work on their work. And so we designed a program that paid the authors for their work at a per word level. We were creating an anthology, and it also asked the science advisors to write a nonfiction accompaniment piece that they were paid for. And we were doing research, and so we were paying the people to show up and answer research questions for us. And so it paid the humans to participate. We were setting up a network, and it's something we still want to do. We still have the partnerships in place. What we don't have is the funding, and we will be working actively to get funding to do that, because the not paying people is a fundamental problem with too many things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's fixable.
People deserve
And
to be
it's-
compensated for their labor. Like
Well,
that.
it's
That's
also,
it.
like, if you pay people, it turns into a job and an ongoing relationship. So you said at the beginning that I worked with Stargate, and I did. And I'm hoping to continue working with them in the future. Now we've got a relaunch coming up, but early days, who knows what will happen. But one of the things that happened is, so I started off very, very early on, and my initial job was be on set as a stunt handwriting for the actors, coming up with like the equations in the background that look nice and fancy, so you don't have your genius scientist solving F equals ma of like Newton's laws. And then over time, because we built a relationship of trust, and because I understood the story and how to yes and it, and I knew I wasn't just going to go, what not, actually, at every single thing, we got to the point of things like we needed to have an astronomical big baddie that came through and killed everybody every 22 minutes. And they wanted it to be a pulsar. But if you have a pulsar that's rotating so that beam comes across every 22 minutes, a pulsar is like a little lighthouse in the sky, then it's going to be moving so slowly that the electromagnetic field is going to be about as deadly as taking fridge magnets and doing cartwheels. You're not going to get anywhere with that. You're not going to kill everybody with that. So we needed to find a way to have a slow yet deadly pulsar. And that sort of thing did not exist in reality. But I went, you know what we could do? We could have a starving pulsar right on the edge of being able to produce its beam. And we're going to put a big feeder star next to it. And they're going to be a binary system, and the pulsar is going to get close enough that it rotates a whole bunch of times, milliseconds, for its beam to go past, and it'll be and then go away and starve, and 22 minutes later it'll come back, it will activate, and while it's nearby, suck away from that big feeder star, activate, and kill everybody every 22 minutes. So we did that for our story, and it was fantastic, because it's plausible, why not, let's do it. A couple years later, astronomers found a Black Widow system in real life that had that dynamic. So we did it in Stargate first, and then found it in real life later.
That is
because
so cool.
Yeah, we didn't know about it, but it's plausible. Why not? This universe is huge. And it's because we had that ongoing relationship of trust. And it could be an ongoing relationship of trust and respect because they were paying me and I could afford to take the time to do it and enjoy the time to do it and to learn and develop expertise in this instead of like being a flyby going, hey, wouldn't it be cool if movies worked this way that I have no idea about?
Yeah.
I'm now
Where I draw
20
the
years
line
deep
is,
in experience in it.
yeah, I will not do math for free. And
think
so
that's
I'm
fair.
happy to run calculations as a science advisor to help figure out things. Like for my own, I'm working on a fiction book in the background, and I'm hoping 2025 has been a terrible year. I'm hoping 2026 is the year of the writing. And I'm setting my life up for that. And one of the things that I needed to figure out is one of the key points at the beginning of the book is it involves an object that has to disappear behind the sun, where like bad thing happens, goes behind the sun, and they're waiting for it to come back out. And so that meant I had to do math to figure out, okay, so if it's this time of year on Earth, it's that time of year there, and these are the orbits, and this is how they have to be lined up. And it was math. And I will do that for me for free. I will do that for other people, but only if there is that we're in this together and there is a financial relationship that we are taking care of each other. So yeah, find where your line is personally, and build relationships over time that are built on the respect that comes with money.
And so,
And if there is an author out there that's wanting to get help,
Yeah.
one of the things you can do is identify the places in your story, your script, your novel, where you're using scientific terminology and ask about the use of the words there. If you go back to the 50s and you see the B movies that were being made, words like mutant and atomic were being thrown into the movies all the time. And as you would say in The Princess Bride, that word, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yeah.
And I see modern stories doing the same thing where they've thrown in a technical term in order to make it sound scientific, but they've used it in such an odd way that anyone who knows what the word means is going to go, what? And the story would be fine if they simply took out that word. Doctor Who's episode Kill the Moon, they wanted to do a super realistic story on the moon, and there's a conceit in the story I'm not going to touch on, and they filmed it on Lanzarote to make it look like a lunar surface. But what really knocked me out of the story was that they're attacked by these spider-looking creatures, and the doctor claims they're prokaryotic. Prokaryotic means your cells don't contain a nucleus. It's not something you can see with the naked eye. Bacteria are prokaryotic. Human-sized spider-like creatures, if they are prokaryotic, you would have to look inside their cells with a microscope and see, is there a nucleus? You can't tell by looking with your naked eye. If
Do
they had just changed
multicellular
that word to
critters-
something else, it would have been fine.
Do multicellular critters exist that are prokaryotes?
Yes, but they're clusters of prokaryotic algae. There are certain cyanobacteria that form these large slimy colonies. So it is theoretically possible to have some sort of creature that's prokaryotic, but you're not going to tell that by looking at it with your naked eye.
just because you had to mention cyanobacteria, I have to quickly say stromatolites are this amazing mix of like our two fields here, because they're the mats of algae that build up and like form rock because they've got all the like the dirt and mud and all that in them, and they're like mushroom shaped rocks over time. And stromatolites hold a special near and dear place in my heart because they're why we can breathe. They're the reason we had the great oxygen catastrophe that changed the earth from being not oxygen to oxygen, and then from there like the entire cascade of life exploding from that. And what's really fun about that is it's also when the oxygen reacted with iron in the ocean and it all precipitated out. And it was like right on that borderline transition of enough oxygen, not enough oxygen, like just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you got layers of rust, iron, rust, iron, rust, iron, which made banded iron formations, these red and black striped rocks, which are an extinct rock because the conditions to form that rock are now done because we have an oxygen atmosphere, so it can never happen again. So you've got this idea of an algae that kind of mixes with rock and geology all kind of together that triggered this enormous chemical swap, which led to a different chunk of geology, which is now extinct, which is a concept you only apply to life. And I love everything about it. It just makes me happy. It's one of my favorite rocks just because it's such a cool story to go with it of transition in time.
That is so cool. And the fact that within our lifetime, we might be able to finally figure out if maybe it could be, we're not sure, possible stromatolite formations on Mars are actually that. And
Like just the entire concept. You can get geological evolution, and this is something I'm constantly trying to nudge somebody to include in a story,
yeah.
and nobody will yet. One day, maybe I'll keep pitching, which is the idea of mineral evolution. So there's just like with stars, that you have more stars, they create various elements, and then the next generation of stars gets to build on that, next generation build on that, so they get more complicated over time. With geology, you get this like base level of fairly boring minerals to start with. Um, but when you start adding oxygen, you add water, you add life, and all of its absolutely bizarre processes, you get more and more mineral complexity over time. So on something like an asteroid, you only have maybe like a few hundred types of minerals. And then here on Earth, we have thousands of types of minerals. So if you went to an alien world and you find particular minerals, either you had to have had a different past background and environment that allowed for the creation of these minerals, or we've got it wrong and things can form in ways that we currently don't understand. And either of those is just like, oh, the juiciness of the story and that of being like, okay, we found feldspar on Mars. And like we talk about finding perchlorates, which would talk about like a watery wet past. But what if we found something that we know only works because of the ridiculously complex processes brought about by having biology nearby or by having an oxygen atmosphere nearby? Or like, what if we, like, Mars is red because it's rusty. So we know there has to be oxygen there just from the color of it looking way across. What can we find out about alien worlds by just looking at them and being like, ah, cool rock. How do you have that rock? Why? It shouldn't be here.
It
it's really cool how we're getting to the point that we can look for details on other worlds and realize in our lifetime we can figure this stuff out. We are unfortunately realizing that Mars sample return may not happen in the next 10 years. But China's getting ready to go to Mars for a sample return. What has me so frustrated is we found these rocks that look like they could have fossil organics in them, and they were collected, they were sampled, and Percy has them, Perseverance rover. And without Mars sample return, we can't get that particular rock unless negotiations occur with China. But we're getting there. We're on the process. Now,
Optimism. We'll all cooperate.
Optimism.
Everyone will get along.
We're trying.
We'll have lots of like international collaborations. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Now, one of the things that we've seen, poor Ray Bradbury had been going strong with his Martian Chronicles and then never revisited Mars after we learned how not habitable it was.
But the Martian Chronicles are still lovely.
They are.
That's still one of my favorite sci-fi
Again,
ones.
it's not about, you don't have to have it be accurate. You just have to have
Exactly.
some fun
It
and
can
not
be
distracting.
fantastical. Yeah, it's fiction, right?
It's
Like,
what if. It's the what if.
yeah,
I loved when the Sci-Fi Channel had what if as a motto. It
I
was
Yes.
so
know,
good.
right?
When they
Yes.
renamed their spelling, like there you go, downfall of civilization
Yeah.
moments for me.
What is your favorite thing that we've learned was totally wrong but is still in classic sci-fi?
So my absolute favorite is a high school science teacher named Hal Clement used to write these books, where the epilogue of them would be like, here's my science explainer based on what we know so far. And Hal Clement's mission of gravity just shifted how I viewed the world. So it was right when we started to like realize that exoplanets were a thing, but definitely hadn't found them yet, like 1950s, 60s. And there was this star system where he's like, well, what if you had a planet there and it was squashed by the competing gravitational poles? So you had like an oblate spheroid, like a squashed oval of a planet, and then the like ridiculous gravity variations from the equator to the poles on that. What would the life forms look like? What would be like for a human to go visit that? And this rolled it all out. And it's a fun story. It's from the aliens' viewpoint, which is also really fun because that's not a very common thing for us. And in the end, he's got the Whirligig World essay, which is explaining the science and the math of it. And then he says, and that this is a game between the author and the reader, where the reader has the advantage because the science will keep progressing, whereas this is locked in place. And like we found out that there's not a planet there, and even if there is, you wouldn't have the oblate spheroid, blah blah blah. But the what if concepts of it are just so lovely and so delightful, and played out so in such a fundamental way of like the way the aliens view the world in the high gravity, and then what happens when that high gravity creature goes to a low gravity place where falls aren't the death sentence they would have been, and they have all this more capacity of moving around. And what about the humans and how they can't actually go all the way to the end and have to trust the aliens because they've got the physical limitations on it? And just it's really quite lovely. The fact that there's no robots to be able to go do things for humans in the high gravity part is also like an interesting viewpoint on of just coming up with these big huge ideas, but also missing some of the what if technologies that would go if we could travel between worlds, or between solar systems. We're probably going to need the technology of having robotics.
Yeah,
like
it's true.
Would be kind of impressive to do intersolar system travel with no robots. So just it's my beloved favorite, and also like it also goes into like when you have two suns of different wavelengths, and what would that do to the plant life of it? And I'm sure it's the biology is equally outdated as the physics is, but the internal consistency of it and the playing inside that world will make it forever have a very special part in my heart.
That's
and
amazing.
I haven't read it now in about 20 years, and I'm kind of afraid to, for fear like the suck theories have come in, and I'll probably notice things like there is not a single non-male character even among the aliens. Like, I'm sure there's
yeah.
things like that. I just don't remember.
That's always the frustration with like old science fiction, right? Because it's like I still love Ray Bradbury. I grew up on Ray Bradbury. I still love the Martian Chronicles and the Illustrated Man and Fahrenheit 451. But I go back and read them now, and it's like I still have that nostalgia. I still love them very much because they were foundational stories. But I'm just like, oh, you were a white dude writing in the 50s and 60s, yeah.
Yeah, it's how many of these books will I actually pass on to the next generation? And the answer is
yeah. Especially
maybe
now that
we'll
we have
Zoe Sassafras instead.
Yeah, especially now that we have like so many like just science fiction is so much more diverse now. Yeah. And there's a lot of like just really great stuff that's come out in the last 10 years that's just beautiful. Because I mean, for me, like I'm very much more interested in like the social and political aspects of like space travel, space colonization. And people have heard me talk about this before, rolling their eyes, but that's why I love The Expanse.
The Expanse had so many science consultants involved. It's like an entire of who didn't touch it at some point. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, like something that is a more modern rec is I love Nora K. Jemisin's Broken Earth trilogy.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to be involved in launching the final book of it because she's like, how do you do a book launch where you don't give away massive spoilers? I know, I'll have a geoscientist come in who specializes in disasters and pretty rocks. Let's do this. So it was really, really fun to see that. And it teaches like a surprising amount of mineralogy and like earth structure for being magical fantasy focused on like social conflict and
Yeah.
like trauma and collapse and all of this. Like it has nothing to do with geoscience except for as a background and as a basis for it, which is really lovely. Like I love that. I'm also going to plug small children's books because I have a
That's where you
massive
live
book
now.
addiction. But now I don't have the focus to read. So all my reading is to people who are like this tall and shorter. And I will do a plug for Zoe and Sassafras, which is a early chapter book about a little girl whose mom used to help magical creatures and now it's her turn, but she doesn't know what she's doing. So it's like constant science experiments of like trying to understand. And it's like legit science experiments that my kid is learning about the scientific process and
That's
like
amazing.
trial and error and failure and getting things wrong and having to figure it out and like what is a control and how do you make a hypothesis and like test whether I'm right or wrong. So fantastic series, highly recommend it. You get to have like germ theory and unicorns.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So we have run out of time. We could keep going for days and years.
I know we've been really just like the time has been flying by.
Yeah. So I. Yeah, we. Sorry, my brain fell out for a moment there. I was looking
I
at the
saw it.
totals. Yeah, she saw it roll across the floor. So we're still waiting for Patreon, I think, to fully update our numbers for us.
No, it's updated.
Oh, it is. Okay. So,
Everything's updated.
okay. So our goal,
Unless something came in like the last 5 seconds.
yeah.
Which
So
it would be nice if something came in the next 5 seconds.
the most important goal for us this weekend is to get the Patreon numbers up because
Yes,
that is our day-to-day, how we support our show.
I'm a little biased on that because my salary gets paid out of that. I'll just be honest.
So we know times are tough. We know the economy is rough. If you have extra to give, please give. If you don't, that's okay. For $5 a month, you can get bottomless science. That is less than the cost of a small peppermint mocha at Starbucks for Christmas.
And I forget which level will you do math for people?
$5.
$5. $5 a month, and Pamela will do math for you.
So if you haven't joined our Patreon, please join the Patreon. And if you're doing okay, if you go to the grocery store and you just buy whatever you want, consider giving more, and we will turn it into education. We were just joined by Keeper of Maps, and can you give us a quick update on what people are working on in Minecraft? We're not going to screen share. We're just throw some words out at us, and people can go to the Discord and learn how to get involved.
Well, I can see, actually, at the moment, the only people I can see on our Minecraft server are me and you, Pamela.
Oh,
what have you
okay.
been building?
I need to find something to build. If you would like to get involved in Minecraft, join our Discord, go to the Minecraft server and ask to be whitelisted, or just hang out and chat. That's fine too.
Yeah.
So we are going to roll them robots and set up.
rockets.
Joining us, we're going to roll those rockets, yes. And
Something.
joining us in the next hour, we have Amy and Jason coming back, and we're going to talk about our plans for the Educator Zone at CosmoQuest. Thank you, Mika. Thank you on the diagonal. And I now know that whenever I write, I need to ask someone from a non-physical science high on the diagonal. You may eventually get something for me to look at. I promise to provide an exchange of some sort to make sure that mitosis and other sciences aren't abused. Mika, I do have to ask, what is it that yarn is going to be turned into?
I'm trying to learn brioche knitting, and I've never done it, and I keep undoing. So this has been like the fifth or sixth time I've done the same 2 rows. So we'll
I'm
see how
learning
it goes.
Tunisian. Yeah, I understand. I'm
Yeah.
learning Tunisian
Yeah.
crochet right now. Same
I've
problem.
been
Yeah.
knitting for like 30 years, and I'm just like, I should probably pick up this seasonal skill that I have admired for at least a decade. We'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. So thank you, everyone. And we are going to roll those rockets and be back. If you're watching on YouTube, we will be switching videos, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
Bye, everyone.